I am ranked number one. One! That means I'm the best.
Pay-per-view is not necessarily designed to give you and I the best matches. It just isn't. If that was so, we wouldn't be getting Brooke, Golovkin, Canelo, Khan, Canelo, Liam Smith, and so on. Bob Arum is slamming HBO, saying they were obligated to distribute Pacquiao Vargas for November the 5th. He says they've abandoned Pacquiao after sucking him dry for 10 years, according to the Los Angeles Times. Now, as far as I know, they haven't just dropped the pay-per-view. I think they've dropped the Pacquiao fight altogether. It looks like Ward and Kovalev is going to be the priority. Bob needs to take into consideration he already took a credible match. It has to be said, one of the most credible matches of the year. But it was unseasoned in terms of both fighters' notoriety and pulling power in Crawford versus Postol. He took that fight to HBO. HBO put it out. Bob said the reason it had to go pay-per-view is that's the only way the purses could be funded for both fighters. The Crawford-Postol fight, in hindsight, was very deceptive. We're not really getting the matches we should be getting at all times. There's not really a competitive Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran, Tommy Hearns type feel to no weight division where they're really going at it. You can throw Benitez into that mix. That's not happening. So as soon as someone like Postol puts together a couple of decent wins, Batiste, first one to stop Turkish dude, Aynen, we're going crazy. He's the new superstar. He's the new hope. And, you know, I think the road that boxing's been going on, like sometimes you get caught into a suction of mediocrity. That's what happens. And it's happened to me. I'm realizing that now. And when we saw Crawford school Postol without breaking a sweat, the fight was so easy because his opponent was ill-equipped. Not just from a boxing argument. He just wasn't star quality. Just wasn't star quality. So it was a one-sided fight in a pay-per-view. And like, that's the last thing you want, is a pay-per-view event to be so one-sided that it resembles a sparring session. People are saying the fight was uninteresting. Well, it was uninteresting because Bob's roster and most other rosters have been decimated by Al Heyman. Postol is now one of his premier fighters. This is a guy who used to work with Marvin Hagler. Now, Postol is one of your premier fighters, and in the hindsight, and look, I can get it wrong in hindsight, and I did. But the thing is, I'm just a blogger on YouTube. You are supposed to be the dude providing us with top quality boxers on these big platforms, and you failed on that one. You succeeded with Crawford, but you failed with Postol. In hindsight, it wasn't a super fight. It was a sparring session. There's me dissecting Postol and Crawford. Oh, it's a really tough fight, man. I got it totally wrong. Got sucked in. Al Heyman puts on better competitive free fights than that for fun. Now, if you don't believe me, go and argue with someone who agrees with what I'm saying and watch them bury you in seconds. I'm not even going to mention the matches. You will get buried in seconds. PBC has put on great fights for nothing. And if not just regular TV, you get Porter, Thurman and Showtime fights like that. You don't think HBO are seeing this? Now, pay-per-view, the bottom line on pay-per-view is the networks are going to decide what they want to put out. Bob doesn't have his own network. HBO are probably thinking, well, look, Bob, you can't just keep bringing us these fights like that. You know, I mean, we've done you a solid on Crawford, Postol, so it could get done. But now you're telling us that Manny Pacquiao is the superstar, but he's fighting Jesse Vargas, who a lot of people will say is not the most credible opponent for Manny. I heard some people say, well, Floyd fought Berto. I haven't said nothing about that. That was pay-per-view. The thing is, though, is Floyd had momentum. He beat Manny. He was on a winning run. His brand is still percolating. Manny's brand has suffered since the Floyd defeat. You see, this social media now as well. Everywhere you go, they're saying, well, Pacquiao ducked Crawford. Dante has put segments together and spliced together all his film footage to put together a narrative. And yeah, you can say he's biased all you like. He's actually on point. Freddie Roach didn't want it. Pacquiao didn't want it. It's embarrassing for Bob. You can hear Bob was embarrassed. HBO are going to be embarrassed to put this on when they know Vargas is not a better opponent or a more viable opponent than Crawford. You see, people talk about Mayweather ducking, and there's a few ways to look at it, and I am spinning this video, but everybody spins everything when they talk, regardless of how unbiased or neutral you say you are. If you can debunk what I'm saying, then cool. I like to hear it, but Floyd has never ducked no opponents as a prize fighter. As a boxer, you can make a different argument. A boxer and a prize fighter, it's two different things. It's kind of like the police officer and police constable argument, you know. But we'll save that for another time. As a prize fighter, he's ducked nobody. You can talk about Margarito, Williams, but the whole point is that no network has dropped him because, oh, you're opting to fight this guy instead of that guy, you're making the network look soft. That's never happened to him. Floyd's never ducked as a prize fighter. Floyd has always had options. When you guys were saying Paul Williams, there was a multi-million-dollar fight there for Ricky Hatton. And if you name another guy, there was another $1 million fight waiting around for Floyd. Again, another example, you say Keith Thurman mandatory, we say Manny Pacquiao $600 million. Say no more. And don't get me wrong. If Floyd was still boxing now, if he didn't retire after the Berto fight, and he didn't commit to fighting Thurman, by this stage, it would have been a problem. But no, he retired. He set all his goals, achieved all of them, and he's out. That's it. As a prize fighter, Pacquiao has no options in terms of fights. Fights that can set the heady heights of Mayweather, De La Hoya, or whatever other big money spinners he had. He has no options. He has no momentum. That's the difference. Ducking Crawford was the final nail in the coffin. Let me just say that. Now, Manny Pacquiao fans, I don't want to put a broad brush on it, but Manny Pacquiao fans have unrealistic expectations. They think they can put together either mediocre performances in the ring or give us mediocre matches, and the show goes on that Manny is this global Henry Armstrong type figure as he's been compared to. No, it doesn't go like that, you know? Like, you got to rebuild and come back and get to where you were after taking losses, significant losses. Knockout losses to Marquez, points losses to Floyd. You're in rehab, you've got to build back your brand, and as much as Pacquiao fans want to say that there's nothing wrong, that Pacquiao can't put a foot wrong, you know, knockout losses, too many catchweight matches, comprehensively outboxed by Floyd, Brandon Rios, Chris Algieri, Vargas. 1 minute you were going to fight Crawford, and then not such a good idea. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to go in on what he does. He does a lot of great stuff, don't get me wrong. But you can't fool the people like that. You know, you guys are trying to paint it over like everything's perfect. But, you know, it's not. It's not. And it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic to think that Pacquiao can just make the same demands that he could have done, let's say, post-Marquez. And everybody jumps to attention. That ship has sailed. You see, Floyd is not liked by a lot of people. But Floyd often talks good sense. He has to talk good sense. There's no way you go 49-0, has his own TMT imprint, has produced world champions apart from himself. And some people are saying, well, he couldn't do none of that without Al Heyman. Well, fair enough, but you guys like downplaying success too much. The fact is, he has achieved all what I said there. It's all documented, and it's still ongoing. He just signed a guy for the Olympics. How is Manny relevant to boxing right now? How is he changing boxing? He's actually going backwards. He's regressing. Like the I'm so righteous God thing. You know, all that screwed up. Lied about the injury. Has had affairs outside of his marriage. And a lot of other stuff. I could say a lot of other. I'm not going to do that because it's unnecessary. Yeah? All the, I'm going to pray with Floyd after I beat him and God told me to deliver him. You know, it's dead. It's a dead issue now. Floyd told Manny, you're not your own boss. Years back. You're not your own boss. Manny has not took control of his boxing career. How are you going to run for Senate in your country, an impoverished country with so much needing to be done in that country? How are you going to run for that? But you can't even take control of your own boxing career. I mean, you saw guys like Miguel Cotto who didn't have half the notoriety and fame that Pacquiao had. In fact, Pacquiao beat the guy in a catchweight match. But Cotto had the sense to say, okay, I'll do a little short-term thing with this network, or maybe a one-fight deal, and took control of his shit. Now HBO have dropped you. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. That hasn't happened to Miguel Cotto. Should have took control. If you took control earlier, the Floyd fight would have went past earlier, and he wouldn't have HBO doing this to him. Cotto said that Top Rank were disrespecting him. He left. Manny just stayed on the ship while it was sinking and didn't get off the ship. Just stayed on it. Steven Espinosa says Showtime are open to discussing the distribution of Pacquiao Vargas. And the Bob Father Aram, they're saying here he's reached out to Turner Sports. I don't know, do Turner Sports. And ESPN are also in the running. Bob also says he has an interest in distributing it ourselves. Why pay a distributor 7.5% if there's no need to? There's people out there who know how to distribute pay-per-view. How many people does it take? We could do it, and it's definitely one of the options. You see, the Pacquiao superstar thing worked when they could spin some yarn about how he was credible and Floyd wasn't when Floyd was active. It's not so easy now. You know, it's not so easy. Floyd has put down his villain cape. Now, there's some people that still hate him and are going to accuse him for everything bad in modern day boxing. That's, you know, that's their deduction. I'm not here to argue. But HBO knew, especially after the Marquez knockout, is that the only way Pacquiao is viable financially to them. Because it's not just if Pacquiao can do higher numbers than Kovalev and Ward or Crawford and Postal. It's about the expectations being met for Pacquiao. Promoting a Pacquiao pay-per-view is way more expensive than promoting a Postal, Crawford, Ward, Kovalev because of the expectation. And right now, they're saying it's not a good investment. So Pacquiao's career at the moment is going out with a whimper and not a bang. Perhaps if he puts in an exceptional performance against Vargas, because let's not get too caught up. If you can perform in a ring, perception and popularity can swing round back in your favor. But anything less than a stellar performance against Vargas, Pacquiao's career could end in a less than exemplary fashion than what we would have envisioned, let's say, 4 years ago. When people weigh up the resumes of Floyd and Manny to decide who's better, there's a lot of childish bias going on. It's sort of like it's a wasted practice, because all you're going to say is, well, that was a catchweight. Well, Floyd fought him first, or Manny fought him first. Manny stopped him and Floyd couldn't. You're going to keep going and going on. It's pointless. It's pointless. Whose career had momentum after all these fights, after they faced common opponents? Who had the better window maintenance? Whose pay-per-views didn't wane? I'll give you a free shot with the Berto one and that's it. Who had more control over their career? Who got dropped off their network for ducking an opponent? It's not about their resume, it never has been. It often isn't if you compare two fighters and two sets of fans going into bat for their man. It's not about that. And with Manny and Floyd, it's not about that. Manny already had the adorable, nice guy, role model thing going, and to a degree, not all the way. No, he still is a role model. A lot of that got popped. A lot of that got popped. Floyd had the modern day Jack Johnson thing without the lynchings, without the crumped up Mann Act bullshit. Floyd stayed relevant for so much, not because of his resume, because it became a case for a lot of people in the press as well, and fans, where they just wanted to see him lose. So he stayed relevant as a villain. Saying who he beat and how he beat, it's a waste of time. It's subjective, and you're going to spin it, he's going to spin it, she's going to spin it, I'm going to spin it. Everybody spins it the way they want to spin it. It's irrelevant. Floyd has been in many fights where his detractors prayed that this is the guy. It's going to be this guy, it's going to be that guy. And when Floyd deconstructs them, oh, he's past his prime. Oh, well, he didn't stop him. Oh, well, he didn't this, he didn't that. It really is this become irrelevant. If he outpointed Triple G, there'd still be that witch hunt. We haven't got him yet. It's not about the resume with Floyd. People look past resumes if they like the guy. Trust me. Raymond Sr. is still loved by sections of boxing media and old fans. But, you know, he fought tough competition, but he's no Pernell Whitaker. Trust me, he isn't. Mayweather, he stayed relevant because the joy his detractors would experience if he lost is beyond explanation. They were hanging on to that hope, and it would be, for them, it would be like busting several nuts at once. Now, self-proclaimed Mayweather fans like me, unashamedly, right? We saw a brilliant boxer. We saw a guy who knew how to navigate the ring and navigate his career. That's what we saw. But the detractors, they held on to their frustration, that stubborn frustration. We've got to get this guy. He's got to lose. And badly. He's got to be humiliated. They held on to that. That kept him so relevant in their blogs, in their articles, in their hearts, in their souls, in their hatred. Nothing to do with resume. You think Jack Johnson was hated because of his resume? No, they didn't hate him because of his resume. They hated him because of what he represented. And then you'd get whoever was controlling the press narrative of that time saying, oh, he fought like a cowardly with all that defensive blocking and shit. If you're going to look at both resumes, Pacquiao and Floyd's, in all truth, there's so many common opponents, and, you know, it's not a matter of who, it's how the next move played out after each victory. The fact that Floyd was able to shut down Marquez in one fight is a telling indictment on the resume comparison. The fact that Floyd widely outpointed Manny, and, you know, you can talk about, well, who landed the better punches? He landed 2 decent punches for the whole fight. You can't be seriously having a conversation about boxing and be talking about 2 punches in nearly 40 minutes of boxing. Yeah? You surely can't be doing that. It's who the majority of the fighters wanted to come after all these victories, and that was Floyd. He was the man. He was the man to beat. So was Pacquiao at times, but not as much as Floyd. That tells the story in itself. You can look at it other ways if you like, but you just want to win. You don't want to be objective and real. You just want to win a debate, but you don't want to be objective, and you don't want to see the situation for what it was like in real time. And that was it in a nutshell. When Floyd went on that hiatus after defeating Hatton and came back in 2009, you know, Pacquiao had the sport all to himself. He was the number one guy. He was, in Mayweather's absence. But, you know, in 2007 at least, Pacquiao was still near around the featherweight, lightweights divisions. And by 2009, he had beat Ricky Hatton at light welter. Floyd was a fully fledged welter. No one was amping up a Floyd and Pacquiao match. Or maybe there was, or maybe I've got the timeline wrong, but from my estimation, it's from around 210, 211. They started really amping for a Floyd and Manny fight. Manny didn't have the damage liability on his logbook that he has now back then. So he was a global icon. Everyone loved Manny. There was no Pactard, Flomo shit. Everyone loved Manny. But right now, I wouldn't say he cuts a pitiful figure, but he just looks lost without Mayweather in the game. He looks lost. What are the options? What do you do? I take on Crawford, could be a step too far, I get beaten. I take on Vargas, HBO drop me. Floyd, like Miguel Cotto, and Floyd actually did it before Cotto. He got away from Bob Arum when he saw it was stifling his progress. What's happening to Manny has never happened to Floyd. You can critique all the opponents, but people have always paid top dollar to see what Floyd was going to do next in the ring. You can say what you want. That's the truth. The momentum was a forward-moving momentum. None of this regressing back to preliminary status almost. None of that. I haven't seen no boxer, and Marvin Hagler's my favorite. No boxer in my lifetime, or at least in my time period, I'm going to say 80s, 90s, and onwards. I've never seen no boxer able to fight at elite level and take as little punishment and deconstruct as much elite fighters as Floyd. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Does that make him the best? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. That's a crazy debate to have about the best ever. You're talking about a lot of serious ringmasters, and I'm not prepared to do that in one video or maybe one hangout. No, I'm not prepared to do that. That's some analysis. That takes some analysis and breaking down. You either love or hate with Mayweather. That's what it is, you know? That pound for pound spot Floyd was holding for so long, it drew a lot of resentment. It just did. It did. And it wasn't because of ducking and resume and running around a ring. It was because who they were saying were doing all them things. Not as necessarily because he was doing all the ducking and running around the ring, but who they were saying was doing it. Black, cocky, confident, able to back up what he said in the ring, rich, successful, still healthy. It's a problem. Now, it's not just Manny. It's not just Manny who is feeling repercussion in Floyd's retirement. No one's prioritizing Manny now. You can't align his name to Floyd. Guys like Keith Thurman. You can't scream Floyd isn't giving me my shot no more when he's got a perfectly good rematch with Sean Porter to fight that he's dismissed like he won the fight convincingly. He didn't win it convincingly. He hasn't stamped his foot on that division. He's still the best 147-pounder, but it's just not a decisive majority for him to start waving his hands and having a victory dance. It just isn't. It just isn't. And Kenny Porter, he can't scream, oh, yo, Floyd and this and that. We just want to fight, you know. We're just honest, hard-working guys. And I'm not saying he said that, but that's what comes out from a lot of these guys. Oh, we just want to keep boxing real. Well, rematch Porter, Thurman. Give him the rematch. Floyd is no longer there for you to say why your career can't move from A to B or Y to Z. He's no longer there for that now. And no one has really impressed thus far since his retirement in flagship in the sport of boxing. We look forward to Ward and Kovalev. One thing I've realized is being a villain keeps you on your toes. You trust nobody. You develop a siege mentality. You look for contingencies because you realize, yo, these motherfuckers could be turncoat at the drop of a dime. And did Pacquiao get too comfortable with, oh, everyone loves me and all that shit there? Probably did. A lot of his fan base apparently now are Triple G fans. And if I have any idea what America and the United Kingdom are like, you know, a lot of their ideologies are identical. You start saying Batman for dead, I'm thing there here. Like, favorable treatment's over. It's over, you know. And when he came out saying that, it's like with Tyson Fury's drug test. I think there's something wrong in Team Fury. I think there might be. But I did hear some other theories and like, yo, when them start drop lyrics upon the Batman, them and all them thing there, you know what I mean? And equated it to pedophilia. Yo. They're coming to get you. They're coming to get you, man. I'm in two minds. I believe both are tangible theories for Fury and Pacquiao because, you know, you might get duped into thinking the way to get even is loud because when you see people on YouTube or on social media,
It's, you know, oh, I'm going to come and fight you. I'm going to come to your area. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and blah, blah, blah. It's all emotional. It's all very revealing and they put it all out there. But when you start fucking with the LGBT and certain people in certain lobbies, I don't want to say too much names because, you know, they're going to say I'm racist or whatever. But they don't do all that. They just get even. They do what it takes to fuck up what you have and any status you have. And then that's it. Job done. Business as usual. They don't do all that. So I believe there are tangible theories. But you'd never know. Because the people who are going to bring them down, they ain't going to tell you I'm coming. They're just going to do it. But Manny, I don't know what's left for Manny out there. And if he gets knocked out by Jesse Vargas, I'll see you then.